Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Connected by Design webinar. Thanks for joining us. Today's session's all about what is NaaS, an introduction to Lumen's Network as a Service. We'll show you how you could quickly and securely turn up connections of various types to gain full control of your network across data centers, edge, and cloud. The presentation will run for about 30 to 45 minutes, and we'll save about 10 to 15 minutes at the end for questions. We'll include a demo. And as we go along, feel free to add questions to the chat down below. So again, thanks for joining us, and let's get started. Let's start by introducing ourselves. My name is Nick Casale, Senior Director of Specialized Sales here at Lumen, and I'm joined by Cale Baldwin, one of our principal technical architects. In today's session, we'll cover the basics of NaaS and Lumen's Network as a Service. We'll show you how the platform delivers speed, scalability, and control you'll need to build an agile network. We'll move right into a demonstration. Cale will take care of that for us. And after the demo, I'll go into a real live example of how one of our customers is using Lumen's Network as a Service. And then we'll save 10 to 15 minutes for questions at the end. So again, feel free to drop your questions right there in the chat. Okay, what is Network as a Service? Simply put, it's the cloudification of network services, moving your network infrastructure into a digital software and API-led on-demand flexible model where the connectivity is on demand. You could deploy the service in minutes. It's billed by the hour. So no longer do you have to order and pay for your peak capacity needs for a full year or full month. This is more of usage-based model, and it is a fully digital scalable model. This is possible because Lumen digitizes the network stack, and we have control of the orchestration and the network. Okay, so why now? 90% of IT teams are looking to deploy NaaS, and they're actively planning this adoption. The explosion of AI workloads and hybrid work models allow this to be an essential service. And traditional networks just cannot handle the demands and the expansion and the scalability to deploy these hybrid networks and handle these AI workloads. And Network as a Service certainly can. We're going to pass it on over to Cale for some more detail on this.
Thanks, Nick. So we've talked a little bit about what NaaS is, and I want to dig in a little bit more on kind of the nuts and bolts and how it actually is architected in terms of how you can get that connectivity out to your customer sites, be that a data center or even a branch location out on your network today. So what we've seen with business applications is they're becoming increasingly dynamic with the rise of AI workloads. And you need to be ready to be able to have flexibility on your network. And this platform is going to be able to provide that level of flexibility that you just don't experience today with traditional types of networking services out there. So what are we really trying to solve for? We're trying to solve for things like slow provisioning and deployment that in the past has taken weeks and months, and reducing that to days or hours, right? And as well, we've seen a lack of agility and flexibility that causes issues with customers with the changing demands of the network that you have. And it's just an inefficient way to set up services. Customers in the past have always provisioned for the worst case scenario, if you will, right? And so we're taking those issues and overburden IT teams, and we're essentially giving you the keys to the network to be able to drive change and instantly change bandwidth, flex bandwidth, and scale your needs as you need. So as you see in this diagram here, there's really two components of this NaaS solution. There's the physical components, or NaaS ports or multiplexed unis that you see on the left-hand side of this diagram. And then there's the VLAN separated services. So these are all kind of Ethernet-based services that we offer today. We're just over the top layering automation and platform orchestration on those services to be able to take, say, a physical port on the Lumen network, and then you spin up services whenever you want. And that could be an internet on demand type of service, or it could be an Ethernet on demand type of connectivity model. And we'll look a little bit further in those models as I go through the demo here in a little bit. In addition to that, we're layering on things like security, DDoS Essentials, and Defender, which I'll talk about in a little bit when we go through the demo. Okay, so before we jump into the demo, here's just a high level of what we're going to be looking at. We're going to look at logging into what we call NaaS Manager, an activation of a service, how you scale bandwidth, monitoring and reporting, and also the embedded security solutions that are within our NaaS portfolio. So let's dig in and take a look at how you would actually spin up these services. Okay, so I'm logged into the Lumen Control Center portal, which is the customer-facing portal where you can do a multitude of different things with your Lumen services. And within that, we have what we call NaaS Manager. And so NaaS Manager is going to be where you would be able to both establish new NaaS ports as well as build the different on-demand services such as Internet on Demand and Ethernet on Demand over those ports. So from a how to connect your building to Lumen, that's where the NaaS port comes in. And just a brief explanation of what a NaaS port is. It's a port on the Lumen network that's a multi-service port. And what I mean by that is that allows you to create a whole bunch of different kind of virtual connections over the top of that physical port. And so that could be Ethernet on demand connections or Internet on demand connections that live on that same port and are just VLAN separated services. So that allows you to use that single physical port to create a bunch of different connections based on your needs. You can order those ports directly in NaaS Manager, as well as through your account team, right? So there's a couple of different ways to procure those ports. Once those ports are established and ready to go and in service, then you're able to go in and build these on-demand services to be able to connect up, say, to the internet. So let's look at an example of how to build one of those services and go through a connection to see how you can build that connection over the top of a physical NaaS port. So in this example, what I'm doing is I've already gone through this step of creating this physical port, and now I'm going to build an Internet on Demand service over the top of that physical port. So what we do is we just go ahead and add a connection. And when you add a connection, there's going to be two choices. There's the data center option and the customer site building option. So a quick brief explanation on that is we do have partnerships with several data center providers, currently Digital Realty, Equinix, and Flexential. And if you're a customer on one of their Fabric port services, then you can leverage the Internet on Demand service through that ecosystem and create a connection in minutes to be able to get a Lumen internet service over the top of that port. For other locations that are customer site building locations, you can select this customer site building tab, and then in the search box, you just press spacebar. All of your in-service NaaS ports would show up in this window. So let's just go ahead and take a address here in Sunnyvale, California. And so I have 3 different ports that are already established there. And I want to build an Internet on Demand service for this port here. So all of these services are VLAN separated. So when you start spinning up these services, then it's going to ask you to establish a customer edge VLAN. And so that would be any VLAN that you want to choose. And the reason why we let you select that is so that that there's no conflicts within your own LAN environment. So I'm just going to choose a VLAN here that's not already in use. And then go through the next steps. And it's just a few steps to build this connectivity. So at this connection, what I want to do is look at bandwidth. And so when we talk about flexibility on bandwidth, what you'll see here is that you can establish this service at, say, day 1 at 100 meg. And then if you want to change the bandwidth to higher or lower bandwidths, you can do that whenever you want. And it takes essentially about 5 minutes for that configuration change to take place. So say I wanted to set this service at 100 meg. So what it's going to do from a billing perspective is there's no contracts for these connections. So it's just going to bill an hourly rate of 46 cents per hour. And then if you disconnect that service, whenever you do that, it would prorate that connection by the hour. So if you flex the bandwidth up or down, then it's going to prorate those charges based on the tiers of bandwidth that you select. I'm going to choose 100 meg for this connection, and then go to the next step. And the next step is selecting your IP and routing for the service. So the default for these connections is just a static route with /30 for the LAN and WAN. There's a bunch of different options that we have in here, from BGP to directly connected, and some larger block sizes that you can have. For this exercise, I think I'm going to just set it to the default of the /30 and the static. And then as you have different needs as a customer, we can get a little bit more in depth on all of the more complicated configurations. So once you have your IP routing selected, then at this point, you can start going through the security add-ons. And so again, it's not just the internet service that we're offering on this platform. We're layering on security services over the top. So we have a couple of those. So DDoS Essentials, that's going to protect you from volumetric attacks. And again, it's just an hourly charge for that service. So for DDoS Essentials, you can just leave that checkbox on for that protection, and we will protect this internet service automatically. And then we have our Lumen Defender product. So Lumen Defender is in a couple of different flavors. Defender Plus, as an example, is a threat mitigation tool. And we have a group within Lumen called Black Lotus Labs. Black Lotus Labs is our threat mitigation arm, and they've created a product that we use on our own network because we have the most peered with IP backbone in the world. We have created a tool to stop bad actors and mitigate threats from bad IPs. And that's called Lumen Defender. And so Lumen Defender blocks those threats before they ever hit your network. And we've seen that customers that leverage this service have seen a huge drop in their firewall alerts. And it's a great service to be able to add to your connectivity. So that's just an extra hourly charge. In this case, it's 14 cents per hour to protect that service. So the next thing you got to do is create a service nickname for this. I'm just going to use webinar demo for our nickname, and then I just need to choose a billing account. So we'll just choose the only billing account in there, and then here's just a recap of everything that was selected. So what we do when you get this service built is it recaps everything you selected, and then you just have to submit your order. So let's submit our order, and then you can move on and start doing other things. So once your order is completed, you would get a email notification as well as the additional details right here in the portal as well. So let's actually take a look at a connection that I built earlier and look at what those details look like. So I'm going to go into the services tab in internet, and you can see here I already created a webinar demo service nickname. And so I want to look at that connectivity and see all the details of that. And when you go into this this summary section, you'll see that it gives you IP addressing and the VLAN tag that you used and the routing option, all those details there. And it also gives you the port and location that you created this connection on. So all those details are within the services section of the portal. So what can you do once you have this connection built? Well, you can do a bunch of different things. A couple things that I wanted to show were this managed service option. So under the managed services section, that's going to allow you to do things like add or remove the security services that we put onto that IoT service, as well as do the bandwidth modifications to the service. So under managed service, say I want to move my service up from 100 meg connection. Say I have an event or a data replication that I'm doing at a certain time, and I need to increase my throughput on these connections. You can go into this managed services option, and you can update that bandwidth to be able to scale your service up to a higher bandwidth. So in the past, that would be something that would take a pretty long time to be able to change the logical bandwidth on an internet service. Now that's essentially done in 5 minutes, right? So let's take a look. Okay, so let's take a look at how we can update the bandwidth of our service that we've already created in the managed services section. So as you can see here, here's my connection that I built previously. And what I want to do is come down to the action section, and there's a bunch of different things that you can do. The one I want to show you is how to update bandwidth for the connection. So this current bandwidth is saying it's at 100 meg today. And what I want to do is I have some sort of event or data replication that I'm going to do, and I want to bump that up to 1 gig. So what I can do is select 1 gig in the portal as my new bandwidth. And then what it's going to do is it's going to review what I've just selected. So my current bandwidth is 100 meg. My new bandwidth is 1 gig. And then just submit that order. When I submit that order, instead of this taking 30 plus days to change this configuration, it takes 5 minutes to update the bandwidth. And then once that's complete, then you would have that additional throughput to be able to utilize this increased capacity. So that kind of flexibility is a part of all these different services that we have here within the portal. So the last thing I'd like to take a look at is, how do we allow you as a customer to monitor and have network visibility? So the way we do that is what we call the network visibility dashboard. So under here in the monitoring section, we have this network visibility link. And when you go in there, that's going to allow you to look at all your network services and to look at things like usage and potentially set up thresholds and alerts for the service. So I'm here in the network visibility dashboard. Let's just look at the list view for this connections, and it will load up all the different connections. And I'll show you just briefly how you can look at utilization and set up alerts. So let's look at services. And here in services, I see an internet on demand service. And what I want to do is I want to look at this specific service. So I'm going to just select this service. And what you can see here is that it gives me an overall view of the utilization within different time periods. So this is a 24-hour time period. You can set that to a number of different ranges, the performance of the service, and it'll tell you whether it's up or down. And then also, importantly, there's an ability to set threshold alerts. So if you wanted to set a threshold alert to say when this service hits, say, 70 or 80%, you can do this directly in the portal, and it will send an email alert once you've hit that threshold. So this allows you to have visibility of your network services, set thresholds, look at utilization, and also do things like open repair tickets if there's any issues. So that's just a real high level of the Lumen NaaS Manager and Control Center and how we are able to leverage this platform within your NaaS services. One other thing about this is that not only do we have this UI experiences, we also have customer-facing APIs that are also part of everything you see in the portal here. Also has a customer-facing API. Now that we've laid out what NaaS is and why it's gaining importance, let's talk specifically about the distinct advantages of the Lumen Network as a Service platform. So top of the list on that is going to be our edge to cloud infrastructure and the fiber that Lumen has in the ground and the breadth of our on-net footprint and the reachability of our network. So from a Lumen perspective, we have over 340,000 global fiber route miles, and we have nearly 200,000 lit buildings that we have in place today. In addition to that, we are rolling out a next generation optical network, which is going to scale our bandwidth up to 800 gig connections, which is going to allow you as a customer to scale bandwidth to much higher bandwidths as the strains of AI become more apparent. In addition to that, as I mentioned before, it's all about real-time provisioning and flexible interfaces. And so we have the Lumen NaaS Manager portal, the UI, and then customer-facing APIs as well that you would be able to leverage if you want to build that into your own environment. In addition, it's all about built-in security services and those over-the-top services. So we looked at that with the DDoS Essentials service, as well as the Lumen Defender service, which is part of the intelligence that we've gathered from our Black Lotus Labs team. And then finally, the future investments that we're looking at are going to include advanced security services like SASE and extended to edge compute as well. So with that said, let's take a look at a case study for a customer that has been leveraging NaaS recently. So I'm gonna let Nick talk a little bit about that.
Thanks, Cale. Great job. Okay, so this is a great example of the power of Lumen's network as a service out there. Churchill Downs, known for the Kentucky Derby, fantastic event. And you could see some of the challenges that they were up against. 385,000 people come to this event. Multiple video feeds needed for media outlets, for Churchill themselves. Tremendous amount of bandwidth needed for the event and leading up to the event. So think about the use cases that you could replicate, just keeping this one in mind for other verticals and other businesses. The increased bandwidth was immediate. They didn't have to pay for that for the entire year, hourly consumption model. And the need for the additional bandwidth was there for fan experience, Wi-Fi, ticketing, point of sale, and video surveillance of some of the expensive assets, horses, that were there for the event. So again, fantastic use case. Great that they were able to take advantage of a lot of the benefits that Cale walked through here in the demo and the platform and bring it to the Kentucky Derby this year. Thank you for joining us today. We hope this clarifies what Lumen Network as a Service can do for you. Cale did a great job of outlining some elements of the service like speed, ease of use, and security. A lot of this could be delivered because Lumen owns that software orchestration and the network. And when you couple those two together, we do great things. And that's evident in our network as a service platform. If you'd like to learn more information, you can visit us at lumen.com. We'll be reaching out to everybody after the session, and we could do personal demos for your extended team, similar to what Cale did, and give a little bit of an overview as well. Thank you. We look forward to connecting with you soon. Okay, thanks for following along. We're going to start with the questions that have been submitted so far. And if you haven't had a chance yet, go ahead and drop them in the chat, and we'll cover as many of them as we can before we wrap up here today.
All right, thank you. Looks like we have a few questions in the chat already. If you're not sure where to enter your question, just click the question mark and go ahead and enter your question in there, and we'll get to it as soon as we get through a couple of these. The first question that we have in the queue: what differentiates Lumen's network as a service from other solutions in the market? That's a great question. So just our real differentiation is that, as Nick said a little bit ago, Lumen owns and operates both the physical network and the software that orchestrates it. So we provide an end-to-end control and integration. And unlike our competitors who lease infrastructure or layer orchestration software on top of third-party networks, we own that piece. So Lumen can deliver a fully unified NaaS experience And as well, we extend our connectivity beyond data centers to customer premises. And so we give our customers a more complete and flexible network edge. All right, there's our first question. Moving on to our second question. Why would I choose Lumen Internet on Demand over traditional dedicated internet access? That's a good question as well. So I would say that the key difference is really the flexibility and control. Internet on Demand gives you self-service provisioning, and so there's no fixed contracts for bandwidth as well, and the ability to scale usage instantly through a portal or through API if you want to integrate that into your network. And it's ideal for dynamic environments where bandwidth needs fluctuate or where integration with business applications is needed. You're not locked into static capacity or long lead times. So, as Cale showed there, it's just a few minutes of the portal to make a change. So if your bandwidth needs to go from 100 megs to a gig, you can make that change very quickly. Also, Lumen gives you the keys to drive and make the changes in real time. So the power's in your hands. All right. The third question here, let's see. Can I mix and match multiple services over a single NaaS port? Absolutely. And that's really the core benefit of what Lumen NaaS is. It's the ability to put multiple services on a single port. You could have Internet on Demand and Ethernet on Demand on there. And so, both layer 2 and 3 services are supported. So you definitely have some flexibility in what you're doing there. And that also improves the cost efficiency without sacrificing any control. All right, we have one more question in the queue. So if you haven't dropped your question in the queue yet, go ahead and click on that question mark and drop it in there. The last question I have right now is what kinds of bandwidth scaling or speed upgrades are coming to the NaaS platform? We're actively investing in the expansion of our NaaS capabilities. So that includes support for full 100 gig bandwidth, and 400 gig bandwidth is on the roadmap as well. These enhancements are being delivered across our data center footprint and also to support high bandwidth workloads and next-gen enterprise applications. I'm going to check the queue one more time, and we'll give it just another minute. If you have any questions, please feel free to drop that into that question and answer. And while I'm waiting for any last questions to come through, just want to say once again, if you have any questions or you want to hear any more about NaaS, we'll be reaching out to everybody on this call. But at the same time, you can also go to lumen.com. And while you're in that website, you just mouse over services, connectivity, and then click on on-demand network services. And our on-demand services are right there. And you can kind of dig through them there. All right, we do not have any further questions in the queue. I want to thank everybody for joining us and look forward to hearing from all of you. Thank you and have a great day.